want to get crack-a-lacking? Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going to go straight right in. What's your favourite thing in the whole entire... No, I'm joking.
Oh, favourites.
Yeah, Kai, I'll let you go first.
No, you said that you wanted to
God damn. So, I am being very unprofessional and I do apologise, but I've got like 35 million questions on my phone and I want to pick out the nice ones that I think you guys might want to ask and what I think will be very, very entertaining for you to answer. And we're going to actually go off from there. So, when doing voice acting, how do you know that the character that you've gone for is going to be suiting your voice style? Like, do you go through like a bunch of different voices inside your head before you come out with the correct one? Like, huzzah! This is the one that I want to go.
A little bit like that. You know, when you get an audition, it depends on the audition. Sometimes you'll have a picture and a description followed by like the lines you're going to read for the audition. Sometimes it's just a description. Sometimes it's just a little log line. It's, you know, Amy, 20s, Asian, and that was it. Good luck. So, you know, there's a little bit of detective work and you kind of just have to make choices. You just have to make choices because the listener can hear when you haven't made a choice. Does that make sense? You know, like if I, you know, did my audition and it just was kind of like, I wasn't sure what I was doing with it, so every line kind of sounds a little hesitant because I didn't make a choice. They can hear that and they don't want that and you don't want that as the listener, right? So clearly I'm not going to get hired for that project. So when I look at a set of sides, you know, I take in what information is actually given to me and then I fill in the blanks for myself to whatever sounds interesting or what seems like it fits the character, you know. And then the last bit is what does that sound like, right? And the secret sauce is your imagination, you know. Everyone thinks that a prissy know-it-all sounds like X, Y, or Z, right? And that sounds slightly different in your head versus what it sounds like in my head. And so, talking about Nobara specifically, when I was looking at her sides, I like watched the first 2 episodes of the sub because they were already up on Crunchyroll when I got the audition for her, and I really liked it. B, I thought she was a really cool character, and then C, like I felt like I kind of had a handle on like what that was. And in the first episode that she's introduced, she's kind of a little bit of a prissy know-it-all. But then as you get to know her later on in the series, she kind of reveals all the layers underneath, right? But you know, on that first episode, you kind of have to go with what is that first impression, right? And so I had that image and I was thinking about like, okay, what kinds of characters, you know, does that feel like? Is that like a Hermione? Is that a Tracy Flick? Is that, you know, what is that? And then plus just what comes naturally from me, like just gut instincts. And that's kind of where I landed on what her voice is. And with Nobara, it's not very far from the source. Like that's very close to how I sound naturally, just with a little more energy and maybe just a little pitched up. That's Nobara Kugisaki. And I kind of rinse and repeat that for every other audition I do. Yeah.
I would love to talk down the microphone, but my battery has died.
No.
Oh. Take mine.
Okay,
Take mine and I'll do a quick little battery run.
Thank you.
Any of those switcheroo. So going from that, obviously, when you're approaching these, how much freedom are you given with these voices, especially when you're working out dubs where you're matching mouth flaps?
Yeah.
How much freedom do you get?
So with dubs, especially, I mean, with auditions, sometimes you don't have access to the video, so you don't know what it sounds like, right? So we're just doing our best guess. But for when you're in the room, you're given a character and you watch it down, you preview what the original Japanese actor did, and then they play the footage again, and instead they take out the audio and you lay in your track, right? So there is a little bit of you being a little beholden to what has come before you. Obviously someone has already made plenty of acting choices that you can pick and choose from, right? And for the most part, like I'm really basing my performance off of she who comes before me. But it's not to say that I have to do a one-to-one match, right? I got cast because I already bring something that is reminiscent of what the original actor has done in that role, right? So I don't have to reach too hard for it already. But if there's something slightly different in terms of intonation, maybe there's a slight change in intention that feels more suited to me. As long as it still reads as honest from the character and matches what you're seeing visually on the screen. Like, I have a little bit of freedom to put my personal stamp on it, as long as it still honors what came before and fits visually what you're seeing, you know. So it's not like you're fully in a box, but you do have a lot of constrictions upon you when you're dubbing. Yeah.
Do you find, like, when you is everyone up to date on Jujutsu Kaisen, by the way, before I just say anything? Anime only, not manga.
Yeah,
I
please no manga.
just want to throw that out there because I don't want to spoil anything. So everyone's up to date, right? Because if you're not, then I do not apologize for this. I'm joking, I do apologize. Knowing what happens,
Yeah.
right? Do you feel, what kind of sort of preparation do you have to do for the kind of harder scenes with Nagoro, when you're doing the harder scenes? Like, is there a certain preparation that you have to go through mentally? Do you draw from real life experiences, or do you draw from, you know, things that you've seen before, or different roles that you've done before, where you kind of had to have a similar sort of emotion that's played? So where do you draw that from when you play like certain scenes that Nagoro has to go through?
Yeah, you know, season 2 is hard. Season 2 is real hard on Nobara. She is kind of rough, but it's interesting. Like, everyone has a slightly different process for how they approach emotional material, right? I think everybody draws to some extent from real life experiences. I maybe never had my face blown off, but I have I have experienced pain. You know, I've never had a friend who was chased out of town for being different, but I've had friendships that were broken up. I've lost friends in different ways. I know you know as an actor how to translate your experiences to the experiences of the character you're playing. And to also a certain extent, we play with this idea of the magical if. You know, if it were me, if I was in this situation and this fantastical thing happened to me, how might I personally react to that? And that all goes back to that secret sauce of the imagination. If your imagination is vivid and your imagination is powerful, you can imagine for yourself what that is like and call forth an emotion that feels like it corresponds to that imagined circumstance. And so I do a blend of using my own personal experiences, what I know are my own personal reactions, and then reacting to this imaginary scenario. And in dubbing specifically, you have the added benefit of being able to watch it prior to, you know what I mean? I'm also watching someone else's interpretation before me, so I can use that emotion to kind of amp me up as well in a very, like, this is kind of like a technical thing, you know? So I have all of these ways to kind of like drum up those high emotions. And for Nobara, in like that scene, like when she's, like after Mike has touched her face and before she says life wasn't so bad, she's in her kind of like her mind palace. She's thinking back on, you know, her life, her friendships. She sees Fumi, she sees her boys, her friends, the second years, and she's reflecting on all of the totality of her experiences, right? And this is a very emotional thing. And when I was recording that scene, the first take I did was, I thought back on it and I was like, I think that was too emotional. And so I asked my director if I could do it a second time so that I've already gone through the motions of like feeling everything like in front, you know what I mean? Like on the surface. And then I kind of like put a lid on it and kind of just like covered it up a little. Because I think she's the kind of girl who, she feels it acutely, but she puts a brave face on it, you know? Even when it's just her, she puts a brave face on it. And I think that second take I did, I believe that's the one that they ended up using. So you got the sense that she has the emotion underneath. It is very sad, but she's also very resolute because she knows she's done the best she can. Yeah.
That's literally the answer I was looking for, yeah. Literally the answer I was looking for, yeah, definitely.
So you've got a background in forensic science. Do you ever draw on that background for any of these scenes? Of you talk
every
about
time,
emotion?
yeah, no. I mean, every time I always equate it. So I worked for 7.5 years as a forensic scientist. I have a biomedical engineering degree. But then I also went to grad school for acting. I've done a lot of different things. But I think what I draw on most from that is anytime I have to do an audition that requires like technical knowledge, like I'm pretty good with like reading technical words. But more importantly, like the kind of detective work that I had to do as a forensic scientist, I was reading a lot of documents. I would have to kind of cobble together a cogent argument, and then I would write so much. I wrote so many reports, you guys. More reports in that 7.5 years than I did in like 12, 15, 16 years of school, But all that to say, I, had this practice method of investigation and, drawing conclusions and all that stuff. And I think in some sort of subconscious way, that methodology still kind of exists in the way I approach my work a little bit. I would say now I do operate more on like gut feelings than anything else, but that's just because I'm so used to it. I'm practiced, so it's easy to kind of jump from like step A to step Z a lot faster. So yeah.
Do you have anything that like sort of attracts you to a role that you want to do?
I don't know, like it's kind of ephemeral, like what draws my eye. I would say I'm typically more drawn to comedic roles or roles that have like something a really fun nugget to them. Like Nobara, she's funny. This girl, she's so silly. She doesn't look like it at first, but she's got 2 brain cells, man. Oh, I love her. The little fun nuggets like that, or even with Genshin Impact, the idea that A is actually soft and sweet beneath the cold exterior of the puppet. I think those are really fun, and I like to find the fun moments in a character. So when I was doing Red and Shogun, in her first story quest, she there's this moment where like you like take a picture of her, and she's like, "What is this? Well, if this copy is here, then what does it mean? Like is that me or am I me?" Like she has this weird existential moment about like being captured in a photograph, and I thought that was really cute. But things like that. I think what I love most is when I find the part of the character that feels the most like me. And then I'm like, okay, now that's really a character I want to play. That's not to say that like every character is exactly like me, but you have to find some thread, some little nugget that you can put yourself into, because then that makes that character unique compared to everyone else's version of that character. And that makes you more castable.
Obviously having that personal thread with a character, from the characters that you voice, have any of them left like an emotional impact on you personally from obviously voicing what they're going through?
Yeah, this one is it left a very like big emotional impact on me, even though like I don't have that lived experience. So I was in this anime called Oku the Inner Chambers. It's on Netflix if you wanna check it out. It's really good. It's an alternate history, like historical fiction. So imagine in like Edo Japan, what if there was this mysterious illness that like struck down most of the young men of the country, and basically it leaves the women of the country to pick up the work, including the shogunate. And so I actually played Iemitsu, who is taken after an actual shogun, but she is the first female shogun of Edo. And she has a very tragic storyline, trigger warnings abound, and performing that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Her character is so mercurial, so hard to pin down already. So for me as an actor, that's such a treat. Like what a meal, what an absolute meal. And she left a scar in my heart because like her story is so tragic. And I'm grateful that I had the chance to be able to like bring that to life, and to kind of go on that journey with her. It was a hard one, but I felt really, really proud of the work that we did. Yeah.
When it comes to video game voice acting and anime voice acting, what would you say is for you is the big difference between the both, or do you see a big difference? Actually, let me repeat that question. Do you take a different approach when you're doing video game voice acting or actual anime voice acting?
So, like from a technical standpoint, like anime is like how I described earlier. You watch it down and then you record your bit, and you are beholden to certain timings, certain like visual cues, the mouth flaps, if you are familiar with that term. So what we're trying to do is match, like when they're speaking, we're speaking. If you see like a big ba, you're trying to fit a word in there that is also like a big vowel, right? Sometimes you can get that, sometimes you kind of have to cheat a little bit, and that's okay. We're all doing the best we can. But for video games, most of them don't have you recording to picture. Some games do. A lot of JRPGs will still have you recording to picture occasionally. Genshin, wow. She died. She dead. Genshin has some cutscenes, like the first time you meet Raiden Shogun, and she's like walking down, and she says, "You will be laid upon the statue." That line. That's a cutscene, and that one was recorded to picture. That for me was like anime. So doing those bits, it's kind of like anime. And JRPGs are already very similar to anime because they kind of have similar tropes, a similar feel. So like that's very familiar territory. But when you're talking about video games like your Call of Duties, what's one that I can say that's like really different? I worked on, oh, my brain's dead. I was in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and I played like 2 characters in there, and it was very much like, it was just like a spreadsheet, you know, you just had your lines, you know, if there's a dialogue happening, the director reads you in, and you just kind of like, you know, bounce off of them, but you're not recording to any sort of like picture. For a lot of games, there's no timing that you have to be beholden to. For some JRPGs, some games that are localized, like China, Korea, you might be beholden to a time. Your line has to fit within a certain amount of space here, give or take, but there's no lip flaps to match. So there's different constraints on a video game performance. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to what genre are we talking about? Is this like a fantastical thing? Is this a comedy? Are we in a war? Or is this just like a quiet little scene between 2 people? You know, those are all different feels, right? They're all going to require a different approach. Something that's very cinematic, like The Last of Us. You know, it's going to be very like close, intimate, very like small, nuanced choices. If you're on the battlefield, everything is big, everything is projected. We're always here. It sounds like this. Everything is that. That's exactly what you're hearing when you're playing those games, right? And then if you're doing a JRPG, like it feels like an anime. So there.
Do you prefer doing anime or video games, or are you allowed to answer that question?
I love both.
You love both.
I love both. I just love good stories. I love good stories. Anime is fun because you get to like tell like a linear story that's like very contained, right? Or somewhat contained. Video games are interesting because depending on the game, you might have a character whose lines have like a lot of branching dialogue, and so like you'll like read like a set of dialogue, and then you actually kind of like the next set of dialogue is basically resetting to the top based on what the player chooses. I'm in Starfield. I'm a bunch of different characters in Starfield, and a lot of my characters have branching dialogue like that. So if the player, you know, responds well, you say this afterwards. If the player draws their gun on you, then you start a fight. You know, those kinds of things. And those are fun, but it is a little bit of like you have to like kind of start and stop, and like you're not recording everything in kind of like one long chronological order because you're always jumping back. But it's fun. They're both really fun, and they're both very rewarding.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, no, we can do one more from you, and then we can go to the crowd.
So, across voice acting in general, is there any sort of surprising challenges that those that aren't in the industry might not realize or think about? Is there anything that you personally?
Most of this job is like waiting for the next job. Like, we're freelancers. So I think people don't understand quite how much you don't book. You are lucky if you book like 1% of the jobs you audition for. And at some point it becomes, for most actors, it's a numbers game. The more you audition, you know, the more you're likely to book, just because you're only gonna book like 1% if you're lucky, right? So if I only do 10 auditions, then, you know, am I screwed? You know? So like you gotta audition a lot, and you gotta be comfortable knowing that you're not going to book most of these things, even if it's something you really liked. You know, when I auditioned for Nobara, I had no idea I was gonna book that. It just went out into the ether, and I didn't know if I would ever hear back from it. You also never get rejection letters. You know, you don't get a rejection letter for acting. They don't say, thank you so much, but we decided to go in another direction. They don't got time for that. They're listening to like hundreds, thousands of auditions for one role, and they're already like strapped for time, not enough manpower. There's no time or no person available to write 100 to 1,000 emails saying, thank you so much for your hard work, but we decided to go in another direction. So you just have to accept that silence means no thank you. And that's takes a real toll on your ego all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not nice when you're just sitting there waiting. It's kind of
you get used to it, because you're also doing auditions while you're waiting, right? I have to live my life. I have to cook dinner. I have to spend time with my family.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I'm gonna come out to the crowd. Okay, we're gonna ask some questions and we're gonna go from there. Remember what I said at the start, please, because security's on deck. Promise you guys that. So who has a question? Right at the front here. Let's be let me health and safety. Let me just walk down the stairs like a normal human being and not fall off the stage and break my leg. Come on, if I just sit right here? Awesome. I was going to sit here anyway, but I'd just like to ask you. So, what is your question?
I asked the same question to Adam actually. What is your favourite and least favourite line of Nobara?
My favorite Nobara line is from season 1, episode 17, when she's fighting Momo in the forest and they're having that big fight. I love the entire speech, but I most love the end of it, where she's like, I love myself when I'm pretty and all dressed up, and I love myself when I'm kicking ass! I think that is a beautiful anthem and words to live by. And then my least favorite Nobara line, life wasn't so bad. I hated having to say it. I mean, it was really good. It's a good line. It's like, if you're going out, like, that's a really, like, way to go, champ. But also, like, I hated that I had to do it.
Actually, I have to ask, sorry, did you get upset when you read that line? Like, did you feel like actual emotions from yourself?
I knew that this was coming from like years, right? When I was in the middle of recording season 1, so we're talking like end of 2020, I had caught up in the manga. So I knew well before season 2 aired that was coming. And so like, people would come to the table and be like, I'm so excited for what Nobara is gonna do in season 2. And I'd have to just sit there and be like, yeah, it's going to be great. But like, real talk, when that episode aired, when the sub aired, I watched it and like I saw that, and then the credits rolled, and then just like I just started ugly crying. And my husband came out in the living room. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "She had so much to live for. I just missed her so much." And he was like, "Oh, okay, it's okay. Let's get ice cream." And then when I recorded the episode, I asked if I could like kind of switch around the lines, not switch around lines. I asked if I could switch around like the order that we recorded things. So in the middle of the episode, you have that flashback to where she's like thinking about like her childhood, and there's that little scene where she's crying as Saori is moving uptown. I asked my director if we could move that crying scene to the last bit of our session. I was like, you know what? Most of this stuff is pretty quiet, and that's going to be like big and like super emotional. I'm like, can I just do the crying at the end? Which felt really good, because after saying life wasn't so bad, I really needed to cry. So I went and did that. It was hard. Yes, I cried. I cried a lot. I hated it.
You cheated the system.
Cathartic session.
It was cathartic.
Next question. Anyone else? Yep, right. See, this is where I came down this way. No, just
Instinct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I do have a question, but I just wanted to say I've got tears in my eyes now because you keep saying it. But your Nabara, and it was so beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm trying not to cry now thinking about it, because that's not what my question is even about. You've played at least 2 characters that I know of that have been very much adopted by the lesbian community, Nabara and Shogun. What does that mean to you? Does it affect any of the way that you interpret them, or anything? Just how you felt about it?
Oh, it's funny. Like I chanced into that like 100%, right? But like when I was recording season 1, I clocked it and I was like, oh, I feel like these two, I feel like Novara and Maki, like that just makes sense. and I'll tell you this, I didn't know Allegra Clark before recording this series. I'd never met her before, and when we got asked to do like a cast signing on Streamily, I was like, oh, you know what'd be really cute is if I had like a print that had like her and Maki together, because that's so cute, and I think they're very cute together. And I got Allegra's email from her director, and I emailed her, and I was like, hi, I don't know you, but you do a wonderful job as Maki, and I thought it might be cute if we got like a print of our characters together to sign. And she wrote me, she's like, yes, oh my god, we are absolutely doing that. Nobara and Maki are endgame. Oh my god, we are doing that. I was like, oh, okay, great. I'm glad you agreed. Wonderful. And I love Allegra, and we are friends, and it's beautiful. But it was just like a fun coincidence. And with A and Nico, this is all very unofficial. But like I see them, I read between the lines like you do, listen. I appreciate that for them, they are the most important remaining people in each other's lives. You know what I mean? There's something really beautiful about that. There's something really beautiful in the way that they've reconnected after all this time. The game doesn't show you like a big dramatic like reunion scene or anything like that. It's smaller in that way, you know. It kind of just like pops up behind the traveler. It's really cute that way, and the way they interact now, you know, well past the events of the Art Conquest, they've settled into this like really comfortable rhythm with each other, and I think that's really lovely. I cherish that, and I cherish the fan reactions. I love that people support that. I think it's really great to see female relationships like that portrayed in a way that is not sensational and just like it's there. It's there, and it's there if you want to read into it one way or another. You know, I think it's well done in that sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Any more questions? Anyone else? Yeah.
So I won't make you exercise.
A million miles away from you right now.
Alejandro Saab has also mentioned this, the use of social media now. Have you noticed that companies for voice actors look at your social media, like your followings and that?
I don't know how much they do personally. I'm sure they absolutely do. And it's weird to know that this thing that I do is now so tied to my social media presence. And I had been taking quite a long break from like doing social media stuff outside of like I'm at a convention. And that was nice to like not think about it. And then now I'm like, oh, I have to start thinking about it again. And I'm suddenly like hyper aware again of like what social media, how social media impacts my career. And it's weird and it's kind of gross, but it's also a nature of the beast, right? This is the time we live in, and we kind of have to just embrace it however we want to, or choose not to, but also understand the consequences of not embracing it. We live in a time where we're always online. We are looking online for our content. This is where we spend a lot of our time. People are watching streamers more than ever for their entertainment, not just like I always think like people talk about, like I stream and I've been taking a long break, but I'm about to go back into it. And people would tell me like, oh, I love putting you on in the background while I'm doing my homework or while I'm cooking or like while I'm doing things. And I thought to myself, oh, this is watching streamers is like this generation's version of my mom putting on soap operas in the background while she was like doing house chores. Like this is our version of it, you know. And I think that's so interesting and actually kind of cool that like everybody, like every generation kind of comes up with their thing that is, oh, the thing you put in the background. You know, your comfort show is watching content. It's very interesting, and I think it would behoove us as performers to embrace that to whatever degree is comfortable for us.
Okay, so we've got one more question left.
Sorry, my answers are very long. And
No. That's
We like that. We like that.
That's what we like. So, final question. Let's make it a doozy. So, who's got a final question?
No pressure.
That's you.
Hello.
Hi.
I was just wondering if you have any pre-recording rituals or anything that you do to get into the headspace of certain characters, or just as a general well-being kind of thing.
I wish I had a sexier answer for you, but no. No, honestly, like I'm very blasé. I like, you know, when I'm in my car, if I'm driving to the studio, which I am now more than ever, I suppose my pre-session ritual really is I throw on my Broadway playlist on Spotify and then I sing along as part of my warm-up. Like doing a good warm-up before a session really is like the ritual, I suppose. And that depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing a commercial where it's basically just a version of this and we're not getting real loud, when it's not vocally taxing, I don't do much of I'm not gonna lie, I don't do much of a warm-up. That's maybe bad, I don't know. But it's very light if it's that. But if we're doing like a video game where I know I'm gonna do a lot of battle barks, a lot of efforts, a lot of screaming, you know, I really then like make sure that I've, you know, done the whole like warming up my range, you know, doing breathing exercises, making sure I'm ready to go because that's going to be taxing on my voice. And 4 hours in, I want to still have a voice at the end of it. Yeah, that's the ritual. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what? I'm gonna be a rebel.
Yeah.
I think we can do one more.
Yeah.
Do it.
No,
Do it.
Who's got another question?
Let's do
Right at the
Let's
back.
do it at the back. Let's do it.
Yeah. We'll do that. Turn it
Do
back.
both of them.
Yeah. Both. Sorry.
I'm gonna make my way along. All right.
What are we do? Kick me out.
Hello.
Hi.
I was just wondering, out of all the auditions that you've done and unfortunately haven't got the job, which is the one that you would have really, really liked to have got?
Do you have enough time?
Yes. We've got all the time in the world. They're not gonna kick us out.
I'm trying to think. Okay, one that I really enjoyed the audition and callback for, but I didn't book. But I also know that the person who booked it like does an amazing job. I was in the running for Conduit in Apex, and like I thought just the writing was really whip smart. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't get it. But that's again, like that's the nature of the beast. You audition for so many things, and sometimes you come really close and you still don't book it, and that's okay. That is okay. I always have to tell myself like, if you got a second callback or they asked you for a reread, that meant they liked what you did, which means they're going to remember you, which means they'll probably send something else your way someday in the future. Don't cry about it. But yeah, that's one that comes to mind. Yeah.
Here's our next question.
Hi.
Hi.
So when you do voice acting, I've seen two separate versions of doing it. Like either it's all of the voice actors, like it's several people in the scene, so it's a bunch of voice actors sitting together. You say your line, you say your line. When you do like Genshin Impact and anime, are you in a group or is it just you in the recording studio? You do your lines, send them off. Everyone does their lines separately as well.
It's the second one. Yeah, so there are projects that will do group records, and group records are usually more saved for like prelay animation. So we're talking like a Family Guy or a Bob's Burgers, that kind of a thing. Those traditionally have been more done in group sessions so that they can riff off each other in real time. Indie animation, there's usually not enough of a budget to include for like a true group record. I did an indie more of an indie animation project called Jade Armor, and we did a table read at the beginning to like kind of get to know each other a little bit, but all of the recording was done separately. And the same is true for all anime. I think like 99.9% of anime sessions are all done separately, and if you're lucky, you might be able to hear the people who recorded before you in your tracks when you go to record. It's really fun. Like on JJK, like if I am not the first person in for that episode, I'll hear Adam and maybe KG if we're doing a scene together, and like that's nice because then you can feel like you were reacting to them in real time. But if I go in first, then I'm the first one laying in the track, so I'm only listening to the Japanese. But then that means whoever comes after gets to hear my beautiful voice. And for video games, also, most of them are done by yourself. Yeah.
I've got a really weird personal question from myself.
Yeah?
Have you ever had to do, for audition, have you ever had to do the emergency in the wardrobe under a coat recorded audition?
Yes. I've done the like in my hotel room, like if the hotel room is particularly noisy, I'll just like rip the blanket off the bed and then like hide myself underneath it. But I'll be like kneeling beside the bed so my laptop is on the bed, and then I'm just like hiding in a cocoon over it, hoping to God that the garbage truck down the street isn't being heard in the recording. It's happened.
Yeah, okay, before they do actually tell me off and actually kick us out, because they actually will do.
Oh, okay.
Just want to say thank you very much for everyone. On a personal note, the questions were amazing. And I'm
well done,
actually
everyone.
really glad that you guys didn't ask the boring basic questions. So thank you as a thank you to me.
I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to shout out Kimono Cat. Your help goes a long way to help support the channel, and if you want to help support the channel, the links to my Patreon and channel memberships are listed below in the description.
あらあら、チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価お願いします。以下のリンクから商品を入手することができます。